Hello, this is going to be a video going over the best Frostmage Dragonflight talent build for Mythic Plus, and then explaining some of the facets of the talent tree that a lot of people are very confused about, as well as talking about the AOE rotation at the end of the video. This is what our Dragonflight talent tree is shaping up to look like for Mythic Plus, and I'll explain all these, or at least the controversial ones like Sub-Zero, Frostbite, why I don't have Wintertide, why I don't have Water Elemental. I'll explain all that. It's kind of what this video is about, is letting people know, because I commonly see questions like, why would you drop Wintertide if it's a 20% buff to Fingers of Frost, Ice Lances, or whatnot? Short answer is it's not a 20% buff to Fingers of Frost, Ice Lances. So the main things that are flexible here is potentially 1 point in Hailstones, Slick Ice, and that's really it. So if those, you could drop some of those potentially for the Flurry talents. There's nothing valuable you're missing out here on the tree except for potentially Comet Storm, but Comet Storm has a very heavy point investment to get. So to talk about Wintertide, Wintertide only works on Fingers of Frost Ice Lances that are hitting a target that has been debuffed by Flurry. So what this means is you only get the benefit when you are proc munching your Ice Lances, and because of that, it's not a very strong talent in AoE and easily dropped for Snowstorm. Sub-Zero, similarly, also has conditionals in that it only applies to targets that are both rooted and frozen. So these mainly come from your roots like Frost Nova, Frostbite, and Ice Nova, and it's the main reason that we take Frostbite in the tree, even though Frostbite is a reasonably strong talent even without Sub-Zero. We just get much higher uptime on the 20% damage buff from Sub-Zero. Both these conditionals are actually really good because they heavily limit where the talents would see play, and because of that, we don't need to always take both of them. A lot of people underestimate Frostbite. This gives your chill effects a 10% chance to freeze one target for 4 seconds, and because of that, it's essentially guaranteed shatter on your Frozen Orb or Blizzard, because that's what would freeze them, most likely in AoE. And to show you its strength, I have a damage details breakdown from a 2-minute 30-second time of me hitting these 3 target dummies, and you can see Frostbite had a debuff uptime of 45%. So that's 45% of the time that at least one of these 3 targets was frozen by Frostbite, and that doesn't count my other freezes like Ice Nova. So overall, there was a 50% uptime on some target being rooted. And the good thing about this is Frostbite scales into higher target counts, because the more Frozen Orbs you get out, the more likely it is that you'll have more targets rooted. Because if I just Frozen Orb, you can see there, it's freezing them every once in a while. 10% chance, froze that again, froze that again. So the more Frozen Orbs I have out, the more likely it is that each target will get frozen, and I'll be critting on multiple things at the same time. This does lead to you having a larger than average crit rate on your abilities, something that you might see when you're shattering. For instance, my Frozen Orb has a 43% crit rate in AoE, and I only have 25% crit, and I'm also not shattering anyways aside from my Ice Nova. So very strong talent, especially when paired with Sub-Zero, which is why it's pretty necessary in sustained AoE. So you may have noticed in my prior talent build I was not taking Dragon's Breath, and that's because of the strength of Freezing Cold for Frost. You can see here it's about a 3% damage increase on 5 targets, and the main reason for this, which I kind of showcase here with Freezing Cold and Megalaw, is actually Temporal Manipulation. This line does not take Freezing Cold, just takes Temporal Manipulation and then some random talent, and it's the majority of the gain that you get for Freezing Cold. So Freezing Cold itself, not a very strong talent, although its secondary part, where when your roots expire or are dispelled, the target is snared by 80%. That could be pretty valuable for ensuring enemies just don't move in Mythic Plus, basically, because there will be a lot of roots on them from Frostbite. I have tested this, it does seem to still proc even when your roots get broken. like they would be in a group setting from damage, it does still seem to proc, so still valuable there. But overall, very weak talent. It's just temporal or time manipulation is much better than Drain's Breath because you can Ice Nova every 10 seconds, which is pretty useful when you are Ice Novaing every time you use Cone of Cold, which is something you can only do if you have over 50% haste. Is shatter your Cone of Cold with either Ice Nova or Frost Nova. So, for instance, I could Ice Nova, Cone of Cold. You can see I shattered it. All 3 crit. If you have less than 50% haste, that's not reliable, so you would just Cone of Cold without using a root beforehand. That is, however, where the Strength of Water Elemental comes in. Water Ele is very strong when you can't shatter your Cone of Cold because you don't have enough haste. You just use the Water Elemental freeze to shatter it with Snowstorm, but it gets much weaker when you can do that. It's not really worth the point to lose so much single target and low target AoE. So just figured I'd explain why people take Water Elemental, and I just don't recommend you take it. So now I'm going to cover the AoE essentials for Dragonflight Frost. So I am going to show the AoE rotation, but I felt like it was pretty easy to kind of just show it written out as a priority system. Basically, you want a Blizzard and Frozen Orb on cooldown, you want a Rune of Power if it's up and you're not in it, and then you want to try and weave your abilities in between your Freezing Winds procs so you don't overcap on Ice Lances if possible. There will be, some target count where it's fine to overcap on Ice Lances, but I don't know what that is yet, and it's a bad habit to get into. If you have more than 50% haste, you use Ice Nova or Frost Nova before using your Cone of Cold, and you are only going to use it at max Snowstorm stacks. And then your filler, so when you're not doing one of these things, is a priority of Ice Nova, and then Shifting Power or Flurry, and then Frostbolt. So that's what you want to do. And I'll give you an example of that. Okay, I should have shattered my Snowstorm, but I wasn't paying attention, so we're gonna do it here. Making sure to cast Rune of Power when it comes back up. Re-Blizzard. I'm just gonna ignore the Flurry that I just sent and just immediately Frostbolt or Frozen Orb. And I could just reshatter a Cone of Cold there as well. But that gives you an idea of what you're supposed to be doing in AoE. It's pretty much the same in pre-patch. So, yeah. But I do think that this kind of priority list is pretty good to look at if you're struggling. It's a pretty simple priority list. So let me know if you have any questions down below.